Hello everyone, this is CJ with Cycletron. Harley Davidson just held their second quarter 2021 earnings call. A lot of interesting things that came out of it. The big picture, their earnings were pretty good, better than expected, not only year to date, but for the quarter. Net income year to date is $465 million. They're basically making more profit on less sales, less revenue. But there's quite a few warning signs out there as far as their future operations and profitability that came through in the call. First of all, their year-to-date sales are down 18% worldwide. They're down just 5% in North America, but they're down considerably in the European Union and Latin America. So they're getting hammered globally. A lot of this has to do with supply chain disruptions. According to the CEO, there's issues with availability of containers, longer transit times for cargo. Ships happen to stop at ports that they didn't intend to stop at, or they're having to wait much longer to unload cargo at a port, as well as increased in raw materials and availability of materials to produce the motorcycles. So that's hit them pretty hard. Harley has loaned more money for bikes recently, so they're doing well there, but their overall percentage of loan originations for motorcycles continues to decline. And the analysts were particularly interested in, during the Q&A session, about the impacts of the European Union tariff, which currently stands at 31%. And that's a temporary relief from the 56% tariff, which will be reinstated at the end of the year if there's no agreement reached with the European Union on the Harley Davidson tariff. So that's going to have a big impact on their bottom line going forward. They expected that tariff would impact their operations and cost them over $120 million this year. Because they got some temporary relief, they're expecting that it's going to have an $80 million impact. So still very sizable. So not a good situation for them regarding the European tariffs. One of the analysts asked, how that was going to impact them. Are they rethinking their whole European strategy? And it was kind of a toss-off answer by Jochen Zeitz that, well, they're in Europe to stay. It's a big part of their operation. So how do you live with a 56% tariff or even a 31% tariff? It's just unsustainable. So the news was met pretty poorly with Wall Street. Their stock's down 7% so far today after the opening of trading, which coincided with this call this morning. So that means they've erased their gains that they've had here in the recent months. Harley indicated that they're going to be raising prices across the board by 2% starting July 1st. So I don't know if you've been into a dealership here recently and have had encountered that situation. Also, Jochen Zeitz said only a few dealers were charging above MSRP for motorcycles. I have a feeling that practice is more widespread, but my local dealer that I've never been able to buy a new or used motorcycle from, just because of the way they do business, they were charging 20 grand for a $15,000 Street Bob 114. I think they've sold them all. And they're trying to get over 20 grand for a CVO over sticker. So they're charging like $63,000 for a new CVO. Jochen Zeitz acknowledged that type of practice would alienate a lot of customers. But on the question of whether Harley was going to adjust MSRP going forward on a few models, he said they've done that, although he didn't list which ones. It was just a handful of bikes, I guess, are coming out with higher MSRP, and look to see bigger price increases for the 2022 models, although they didn't say for sure that was going to happen. It's likely to happen because they're having to absorb greater transportation costs, greater raw material costs, and the like. So there's only so much they're able and willing to do to not pass those prices along to the consumer in the form of higher motorcycle prices. So that's it in a nutshell. Kind of a mixed bag. Good short-term financial results, but a lot of warnings for the future. One of the initiatives they announced during the call was this HD1 marketplace. So it's a marketplace for used Harley Davidson motorcycles that was launched today. Apparently every dealer in the country is part of that initiative, and they see places like Cycletron as their main competitors. So I went to that website here this morning just to check it out, and I thought, wow, this could be great, you know, more transparency in the sales process. It makes the buying process easier if you get more information in the hands of the buyer. But so far it's the same old Harley Davidson stuff, you know. Out of 220 bikes in my local area, 218 were non-certified, so only 2 that were certified, which I don't really care about that one way or the other. I guess if you want a bike that comes with a warranty, you'd want to go the certified route, but for whatever reason, there's not much available right now. But out of 220 bikes, only 1 had the sales price listed. So I know it's early, it's the first day, but it just looks like the same old nonsense where it's just another sales channel to get your contact information. I would bet money that if you pursued interest in a bike, that you probably wouldn't get quoted a bike price over the phone. They'd want you to come down to the dealership, and all it is, again, is lead generation. But if you have a different experience with that, please let me know, or a different viewpoint. Then they moved on to Livewire 1. Right now they've got 11 authorized dealerships. An analyst asked on the call who gets to become a Livewire 1 dealer, and the CEO basically said, well, if you're really enthusiastic about the electric motorcycle future, then you have a pretty good shot of becoming one of those dealerships. That wasn't a lot of information. They hinted that there may be more sales channels opening up, well, obviously, but it wasn't clear if non-Harley power sports dealers would be able to sell a Livewire 1. That, to me, seems to be pretty key if they're going to be able to promote that motorcycle. Then they talked about the good reception that they had for the Sportster S, at least in terms of the internet and other motorcycle press. So far, it's been favorably received. But I think the other thing that's dragging Harley now, and certainly their stock price, is that their motorcycle inventories are quite low. And their ability to replenish inventory is greatly diminished. Harley said that they don't have, or they haven't had any blackouts at their factory so far. They've had what they call brownouts, where they've had to shift production to other models, but they haven't had to close a plant down entirely. There's a big auto plant in my area that's been shut down for several months because of lack of chips. So far Harley hasn't had to do that, but they suggested that that may be a possibility. At the same time, they indicated that these supply chain issues tend to resolve themselves very quickly or all at once, not in a short period of time, but when they do, it just kind of is a surprise to everyone. So that'll be interesting, but I think they're definitely planning on these issues lasting for the rest of the year. If you want a Pan America and haven't bought one yet, chances are those aren't going to be replenished at dealerships anytime soon. So that might be a 2022 situation. You know, the Sportster S was supposed to come out in the fall. I have no doubt some will, but again, it's probably going to be a limited supply like it was with the Pan America. They indicated that the Electric Glide was really well received, but those sold out pretty much immediately. So again, the trend is trying to make more money off of fewer motorcycles, continue to work through these supply chain issues. Just from my own standpoint, I've got a 2020 Roadster, and I ordered a bunch of parts for it. It was a wreck bike that I bought salvaged, and many of the parts won't come in until September, 4 months after I ordered them. I mean, one of the parts I'm still waiting on is a clutch cable. You know, so I heard from the parts department that one of the issues is Harley has some parts in stock, but they don't have enough people to pack and ship them. So these supply chain impacts are hitting all aspects of their operation. I don't know if they're prioritizing parts for new production and not getting replacement parts to existing owners, but I mean, I have no control over it. There's nothing I can do. I'm not happy about the situation, but I'm just hopeful that the parts will actually show up here in a couple more months, and it's not a situation where we're waiting even longer. So that's the big picture with Harley Davidson. I think they're going to have some tough sledding the rest of the year and into the first part of next year, probably until they can get the 2022 models launched, and hopefully they'll be in a position to have full inventory when they do the model launch next year, but that remains to be seen. So as it stands right now, their stock's getting hammered pretty well. So if you have any thoughts on this, please let me know in the comments section, particularly what you think about, well, any of the topics, but the HD1 marketplace. If you've been able to buy a bike there, or at least have any type of shopping experience that was a little more transparent than going to a dealer and having to hammer it out from scratch. So please let me know. Thanks very much.